Part 2. When Prince Otto married his Princess Mariposa, the whole city rejoiced. Fireworks were lit in the public gardens, bands played all night in the ballrooms, and flags and banners moved from every rooftop. "At least we'll have an heir," the people said, for they had been afraid that the dynasty would come to an end. Went by, and more time, and no child came to Prince Otto and Princess Mariposa. They sought the opinions of the finest doctors, but still no child came. They made a pilgrimage to Rome to seek the blessing of the Holy Father, but still no child came. As Princess Mariposa stood up at the palace window, she heard the chiming of the cathedral clock, and said, "I wish I had a child as sound as a bell and as true as a clock." And when she said those words, she felt her heart lift. And before the year was out, she did have a child, but alas for her, and for everyone, her labour was hard and painful. And when the baby had taken one breath in this world, he could take no more, and he died in the arms of the nurse. Princess Mariposa knew nothing of that, for she was in a dreadful swoon, and no one could say whether she would live or die. As for Prince Otto, he was nearly out of his mind with fury. He snatched the dead child from the nurse's arms and said, "I will have an heir, come what may." He ran down to the stables and ordered the grooms to saddle his fastest horse, and with the dead child clasped to his breast, he galloped away. Where was he going? North, and further north, until he came to the workshop of Dr Kalmenius, near the silver mines of Schatzberg. There it was that the great clockwork maker created his wonders. From celestial clocks that told the position of every planet for the next 25,000 years, to the little figures that danced and rode miniature ponies and shot tiny arrows and played the harpsichord. "Well," said Dr Kalmenius. Prince Otto stood in his riding clock, with the snow still white on his shoulders, and held out the body of his child. "Make me another child," he said. "My son is dead, and his mother lies between life and death. Dr Kalmenius, I command you to make me a child of clockwork who will not die." Even Prince Otto in his madness didn't believe that a clockwork toy could resemble a living child. But the silver they mined in Schatzberg was not the same as other metals. It was malleable and soft and lustrous, with a bloom on it like on a butterfly's wing. And as for the great clockwork maker, the task was a challenge to his artistry, and he couldn't resist, and so, while Prince Otto buried the dead child, Dr Kalmenius set to work to make the new one. He smelt the ore and refined the silver, and beat it into a subtle thinness. He spun gold into filaments finer than spider's silk, and attached each one separately to the little head. He cast and filed and tempered, he soldered and riveted and bolted, he timed and adjusted and regulated, until the little mainspring was tight, and the little escament on its jeweled bearings was sticking back and forth with perfect accuracy. When the clockwork child was ready, Dr Kalmenius gave him to Prince Otto, who scrutinized him carefully. The baby was breathing and moving and smiling, and even by some secret art, warm. In every way, he looked exactly like the child who had died. Prince Otto wrapped his clock around the baby and rode back to the palace, where he laid the child in the arms of Princess Mariposa, and the princess opened her eyes in the joy of seeing her own child, as she thought, alive and well, brought her back from the brink of the grave. And besides, she looked so pretty with the child in her arms. She had always known she would. They named him Florian. A year went by, 2 years, 3, and the little boy grew up beloved and by everyone, happy and sturdy and clever. Prince Otto took him riding on a little pony and taught him to shoot a bow and an arrow. He danced, he picked up tunes on the harpsichord. He grew stronger and bigger, more merry and lively all the time. In the 5th year of his life, the little prince began to show signs of disturbing illness. There was a painful stiffness in his joints. He had a constant feeling of chill, and his face, which was normally so lively and so expressive, was becoming mask-like and rigid. Princess Mariposa was worried to distraction, for he no longer looked nearly so handsome next to her. "Can't you do something to cure him?" she demanded of the royal physician. The physician tapped the boy's chest and looked at his tongue and felt his pulse. It was not like no disease he had ever seen. If he hadn't known the prince was a little boy, he would have said he was sizing up like a rusty clock, and he could hardly say that to Princess Mariposa. "Nothing to worry about," he said. "It's a condition known as inflammatory oxidus. Give him 2 spoonfuls of cod liver oil 3 times a day and rub his chest with oil of lavender." The only one to suspect the truth was his father, and so Prince Otto set off once again for the mines of Schatzberg and knocked at the door of Dr. Kalmenius' workshop. "Well," said the clockwork maker. "Prince Florin is ill," said Prince Otto. "What can we do?" He described the symptoms, and Dr. Kalmenius shrugged his shoulders. "It's in the nature of clockwork to run down," was the answer. "His mainspring was bound to weaken, his escape to become clogged with dust. I tell you what will happen next. His skin will stiffen and crack, and split from top to bottom to reveal nothing but dead, sized-up metal inside him. He will never work again." "But why didn't you tell me that this would happen?" "You were in such a hurry and you didn't ask." "Can't you just wind him up?" "Impossible." "What can we do?" said Prince Otto in his rage and despair. "Is there nothing that can save his life? I must have an heir. The survival of the royal family depends on it." "There is one thing," said Dr. Kalmenius. "He is failing because he has no heart. Find him a heart and he will live. I don't know where you will find a heart in good condition that its owner is willing to be part with. Besides—" But Prince Otto had left already. He didn't stop to hear the rest of what Dr. Kalmenius was going to say. That's often the way with princes. They want instant solutions, not difficult ones that take time and care to bring about. What the great clockwork maker had been going to say was this: the heart that is given must also be kept. But quite possibly Prince Otto wouldn't have understood anyway. He rode back to the palace, turning the problem over in his mind. And what a dilemma! To save his son, he had to sacrifice another human being. What could he do, and whom could he ask to make such a great sacrifice?